Let us start. Okay. So this is just I have shown what are the significance of publishing an article. Okay. And now what is the motivation behind a publication? Okay. So in this case, you can see almost 54% publications people do for knowledge dissemination. So that is the majority of people publishing paper for the purpose of knowledge dissemination. Then second motivation pertains to career prospects. This is your this 20% belongs to your for the career prospects. Then about 12% publications people do for improved funding, and then 6% for satisfaction of their ego, and then 4% for patent protection, and rest 4% is includes other criteria. Okay, so majority of publication people do for dissemination of knowledge. That is important. Okay, then next is what kind of articles we publish in general in academics. Okay, so in general these are 4-5 categories you can see. The first category is a general article. Okay, now this includes even the letters to editors, etc. Okay, so but the second one, that is review article, that is one important publication most of us do. And third is your research publication, the work which you do in lab, that we publish. And fourth is your dissertation thesis pertaining to either UG, maybe PG, or maybe at the level of PhD. Okay, so these are the broad categories of publications we do, papers we write in academics. Okay, and then if you look to the discipline-wise publication scenario, globally, this is a distribution of publication discipline-wise. Okay, so you can see globally the largest percentage of publication pertains to medical science. Okay, then you have other areas of science like physics, then maybe biological sciences, chemistry. Okay, this SS includes social sciences, and this age includes humanities. Okay, so majority of the publication belongs to various areas of science like environmental science, geology, information technology, material sciences research, mathematics. Okay, so when we talk of this publication issues, ethical issues in publication, most of the guidelines which have been published for ethical considerations, they pertain to science, and that too, majority of them pertains to medical sciences research. Okay, so this point becomes clear from this slide that majority of the publication comes from the medical sciences, and majority of the guidelines which are available for ethical considerations, they also come from medical sciences. Okay, so this is the scenario globally, and more or less same scenario exists for India also. Here also the maximum, you can see the maximum percentage comes for the medical sciences, and then very small percentage for humanities and social sciences. Okay, then now coming to publication. So when we talk of publication, there are 4 major partners or stakeholders, you can say. Okay, so the first is the author. Okay, and then you have, for publication, you have to communicate some journals where editors are there. So editors are involved, and then once editors they receive it, they send it to reviewer, and then reviewers are also involved who very critically look to your work and give the useful comments so that the quality of your publication improves. Okay, and finally, once it is published, then it goes to the reader. Okay, so there are 4 major stakeholders, what we call author, editor, reviewer, and reader. So these are the major stakeholders for publication. Okay, and this is just a cartoon depiction of publication process. So the first step is that we researchers, we do our work, we perform the study. Okay, and then we write a paper, and then at the second stage we communicate to a journal. Okay, once you communicate, it goes to a editor, and then from editor it goes to the fourth stage, that is, it goes to reviewer. Okay, and reviewer gives some valuable comments, and then again it may accept at once or it may revise. Okay, once it is reviewer suggests revision, then it comes back to editor and then to researcher, and we submit again the revised version that again goes to editor and reviewer. And finally, once they are satisfied, editor and reviewer, then it goes for, it is accepted, and finally you get a published work, that is the paper comes out. Okay. Now, when we talk of the various factors which determine the academic publishing, then you can see majority of the major factor is that to a great, so the publishing process to a great extent depends on the trust. Okay, and what kind of trust? Editor trust the peer reviewers for their fair assessment. Author trust editors for appropriate peer review. And then reader trust the author's work. That is also important. Whatever we publish, whosoever reads it, they believe that it is, yes, this is a correct thing what they have described. Okay, so basically, to a great extent, all this business is based on trust. Okay, mutual trust, you can say. Okay, furthermore, you may have other factors also, like there is maybe a environment of powerful intellectual, financial, and sometimes political interest also, which sometimes compete. So some publications are hindered because of some of these issues also. Okay, you may not publish because of some issues. For example, some of the well-known journals, okay, like you talk of Nature, you talk of Journal of Biological Chemistry, or top-ranking journal, they charge per page printing charges, which is very, very expensive. So we in India, most of us, we can't approach unless until you have extensive funding. Otherwise, majority of us are not able to even submit our work to those journals because they charge heavy. But at the same time, I would like to mention that nowadays we have a number of non-standard journals. Okay, they also charge. That is a different issue. But you require funds also to publish your work. Okay, then sometimes political interests are also there. So these are also factors which determine the academic publishing. Okay, then good decisions and strong editorial process, they foster a sustainable and efficient publishing system to benefit the academic societies, journal editors, authors, research funders, readers, and publishers. Okay, so now coming to the next one. Now coming to the ethics. Okay, so in general, what do you mean by ethics? Okay, so a set of fundamental values, attitudes, and norms considered by majority of the population is essential for personal life or life with one another and life in relation to a society's institutions. So those norms are considered as ethics. Okay, so in the society we decide certain norms and we decide what is right, what is wrong. Okay, so if you follow those norms, that is ethical practice, and if you don't follow, you come under the non-ethical practice, that is a misconduct. Okay, so with regards to publication ethics has many category or dimensions, you can say. For example, in this diagram I have shown that you may have one issue of publication ethics, that is what you call plagiarism. Okay, then you may have I'm not able to show through, for example, this is plagiarism, then data fabrication, image manipulation, copyright infringement, no permission for data information uses, then multiple publication coming out of being what you call salami slicing, then duplicate submission, no informed consent, then simultaneous submission to a two journal, okay, non-disclosure of safety procedures, conflict of interest, authorship issues, data falsification. So all these factors, they come under the publication ethics. Okay, now almost all of them I will describe in detail through subsequent slides. Okay, so when we talk of publication ethics, okay, so you have broadly two key partners here. One is the the persons who are involved in conduct of study, what we call researchers. So that is one partner who is responsible for all sorts of publication ethics. Okay. And then you have second major partner, that is the publication process. There also ethics are involved. Okay. So publication involves both kinds of both target groups are responsible for ethics in publication. Okay. And each of them is a multi-step process, whether it is a research person who are doing research that is conducting the study, or it is a publication process. Then both are multi-step process. Okay. But at among all these, authors are at the center of ethics, as they are the originator of publication process. So greatest responsibility goes to authors. This should be kept in mind. So when we do research and when we communicate, we write a paper and communicate it for publication, the sole responsibility lies with the author or the researcher. Okay, this should be kept in mind. Okay. Then if you talk of how we conduct the study, which is one part of the publication process. So we have to do the literature survey, then we have to find out the gaps, and then based on that you develop a concept, and then you develop your objectives, what kind of work you will initiate, then what approaches you will follow. Then accordingly you arrange your material, methods, and then you make a work plan, and then you execute the experiment. Okay. And once you do that, then you collect your data, and then you do the data analysis and interpretation. Okay. And then you write a paper. Okay, as per the guidelines given by different journals. So when you write a paper, you have to follow the guidelines. Okay. Then we use a language which should be very clear and concise. Okay. And then the references should be up to date. Okay. And then you should share, if it is a multi-author paper, then you should share this final manuscript with all the authors. Okay. And once you do this, then you submit to the journal, whatever journal you submit, and then it is screened by the editor, and they look for its suitability, novelty, and addition to existing knowledge they see. And if the subject of the research work comply with the journal's manuscript submission guidelines, then they send it further for reviewing. Otherwise, in case they find out some technical issues or non-adherence to the manuscript guidelines, then they send back to the author for technical modification. And once you do that, rectify that, then it again goes, you submit it and it goes for peer review. And based on the comment, it can be accepted, rejected, or modified, whatever it is. Okay. So this is an overview of publication process, that once you submit, then these are the process. You reviewers are assigned, then review. This I already discussed. And once it is revised, accepted, or rejected, these are the three fates when we submit a paper, and they are notified to author. If it is revision, then we revise it and again submit it, and again goes for reviewing process, all this. And finally, if it is accepted, so once it is accepted, it is sent to the publisher for publication. Okay. Now, this is just to give an idea that this is an old slide, in 2014 slide. Okay. So this is the top 15 publishers. And if you see this, how many articles they publish per year. So this, how huge data they are publishing. And here, if you see, the Elsevier is the top ranking. This was in 2014. Okay. So they handle 5,70,398 articles they published. Okay. Followed by Springer. Okay. Then Ville. Okay. So Elsevier, Springer, Ville, they handle majority of the publications. Okay. And they publish in variety of disciplines also. That is also very important. You see nowadays, PLOS. So in 2014, if you see this one, this is a PLOS one. My arrowhead is this visible? So this is the PLOS one. Okay. So major publishers are Elsevier, Springer, and Valley. Okay. Then what is publication misconduct? So any publication that reports the results and draws the conclusion from the data which have been manipulated, or uses any unethical practices comes under the category of publication misconduct. Okay. Now, here I have elaborated a little bit more these publication misconduct. So it is the violation of a standard codes of scholarly conduct and ethical behavior in the publication. And misconduct in the publication process is detrimental for the integrity of the whole system. So this is a very, very serious offense. Okay. And in general, different forms of publication misconduct are, for example, falsification or fabrication of data, then plagiarism, then authorship issues, simultaneous publication, then duplicate publication, salami slicing or salami publication also we call. This refers to splitting of data derived from a single research into multiple smaller publishable units or what we call slices. So this is known as salami slicing. Okay. Then sometimes this is non-declaration of conflict of interest. This is also one of the misconduct. Then conducting research without informed consent of or ethics approval, or non-maintaining data confidentiality. So these are some of the different forms of publication misconduct. Okay. Now I have categorized all major kinds of publication misconduct. Okay. So the first major kind of publication misconduct is plagiarism. Okay. Now what is plagiarism? The word plagiarism was first used in the English language in 1601 by the dramatist Ben Jonson to describe someone who was guilty of theft. So literally use came in 1601. Then it means plagiarism is derived from the Latin word, which means to kidnap. Okay. And by definition, plagiarism is using others' words, results, or published work without appropriate citation. This is important. If you are using others' words, other results, or others' published work without appropriate citation, that is called as plagiarism. Okay. This also includes using own published work, what we call self-plagiarism. So even if you are using your own work without appropriate citation or disclosure, that also comes under the category of plagiarism, but we call that as a self-plagiarism. Okay. To be on the safer side, authors should cite source or give reference of their previous publication, which will take care of your self-plagiarism. Okay. Then sometimes we do plagiarism of ideas. How? When and this is called as plagiarism of idea, when a plagiarist copies or steals the idea or thought of someone else and presents it as his or own. Such type of plagiarism is difficult to detect. However, once detected, it is considered serious offense. Then this plagiarism of text or direct plagiarism, that is word by word writing, is when a researcher takes large section of an article from another source and pastes it in his or her own research without providing proper citation. Second, another kind of plagiarism we call, one of the hybrid varieties of plagiarism is mosaic plagiarism. Okay, where the author steals the idea, opinion, words, and phrases from different sources and merges words without acknowledging the original author. So the important thing, you should write your own articles or paper in your own words. And if you are using others' words also, or maybe some paragraph, you must cite it so that you can be free from this misconduct of plagiarism. So citation is very important. You must quote it. This part I have taken from this article. Okay. So this plagiarism is considered the most common form of scientific misconduct. This can be intentional as well as it may be unintentional also. The unintentional plagiarism is usually seen in articles written by students or junior researchers. So they just copy and put it as such. And also in case where the lack of awareness and ignorance lead to unintentional plagiarism. Okay. Intentional plagiarism happens when an author deliberately copies documented or published work and presents it as his or her own work. Okay. Both type of plagiarism are unethical and illegal, which can ruin the career and reputation of the writer. And there are examples in which plagiarism engulfed the entire career of authors and writers, and it became the reason for article retraction or rejection. Okay. Now, how to avoid plagiarism? Okay. Now, the very first step to prevent plagiarism is the awareness about plagiarism, the consequences, and how to avoid plagiarism. So, especially the junior researchers, they must be aware how to prevent this plagiarism. Okay. So you can avoid one way by acknowledging the original source of the idea or word and including them with quotation marks. So this is one way. So you can avoid, I'm again repeating, if it is visible, cursor is, it is visible, you can avoid plagiarism by acknowledging the original source of idea or word and including them within quotation mark. Okay. In case of paraphrasing, where the writer writes the text in his own word, authors must properly cite the original source. Then authors must always obtain permission for use of published illustrations, the figures, etc. Okay, you must take the permission by the publisher. Okay, then authors should avoid writing multiple separate articles if she can present a large complex study in a cohesive manner in a single article. This we call salami slicing or duplicate publication, also sometimes we call. Okay, so you should avoid multiple paper writing. Okay, is deliberately splitting your one work into several just to increase the number of publications. Okay. Now, most important way to avoid plagiarism is nowadays we have a number of softwares which can detect plagiarism, and which are majority of them are available online, and some of them are available free of cost also. Okay, so freely online available, they are freely available online. Okay, and it is the responsibility of the author to run their manuscript through software before submitting it to the journal. Okay. Now, even nowadays, if you submit a paper without checking it through these softwares which deal with the plagiarism, when you submit it goes to the journal, they do it. And if it is not up to, because every software gives certain percentage that if it is beyond this, this becomes a misconduct and they return your manuscript. Okay, so you have to again rewrite your manuscript so that uh, this plagiarism issue doesn't arise. Okay. The second type of publication misconduct we call falsification. Okay. So what is falsification? Misrepresentation or suppression or addition of a part of the data to generate results as per your wish, or improper reporting of results in order to present a misleading outcome. Suppose you don't do a research, you don't do an experiment, just put the data as per your wish. So that is your falsification. Okay. Similarly, fabrication is another category of publication misconduct, where reporting of results of experiments which were never done. Okay. This also includes images, photographs being morphed to reach a particular interpretation. People take these images and photographs somewhere, somebody else's work, and they present it as their own. Okay, so this comes under the category of fabrication. Okay, then third type of publication misconduct is categorized as fraud, which is deliberate suppression of previous work in publications and inappropriate claim originally and or avoiding quoting previous publications which are contrary to present results. Okay, so this is considered as a fraud.
So
yes.
So what is the major difference between fabrication and falsification?
Falsification is dealing with the data. Suppose you don't do the research, you don't do the experiment and put it, suppose you are measuring the activity of some enzyme, it is not coming, but you show, yes, it is coming. That is your falsification. But fabrication is, you have not done that. You have taken that table, whole table, or maybe figure from some other work. That is fabrication. You have fabricated it. And here you are falsifying. You got the difference?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then next issue comes, that is the major type of category of publication misconduct, is the inappropriate authorship. This is also a big issue. Okay, many times this leads to many problems. Okay, so the authorship dispute could range from order of authorship, so where my name should come first, second, third, or maybe last. So that is the order of authorship. Many times inclusion or exclusion of authors. Some are excluded, some are included. Okay, how many authors, number of authors. Okay, so these are the major issues which leads to authorship disputes. Okay, then second point is excluding genuine contributors from authorship, including non-contributor or claiming. So this is one issue, that is excluding the genuine contributor from the authorship. The person who has really done work, we find many cases where person who has done the work, they have not been made he or she has not been made a part of the paper. Okay, so that is a serious misconduct. On the other hand, the non-contributors, they are included as authors. Okay, they have not made any meaningful contribution, but they have been offered. So all these things, that is a person who has done the work and you are not putting the name, that is inappropriate authors. So that is a misconduct. And a person who has not done work and you are putting the name, that is also inappropriate, and that is also a misconduct. Sometimes what people do, they request for addition of authors after submission, or even after the not this reviewer's comment, when it is comes under the stage of publication. At that stage, we request for change of the authorship. Okay, this is also not good. Okay, in contrast, there are examples where a co-author denies becoming a part of the manuscript once any scientific misconduct, including plagiarism, is detected. So this happens when there is some problem. Then many people, those who are not seriously involved, they just say that you take out my name. I didn't do any work here. They deliberately put my name. So on the one hand, at one time they press, especially the senior people, they say that put my name. But if something goes wrong, they say deliberately these people have put my name. Being a senior person, they have put my name to get it published. Okay, so all sorts of things they happen. Okay, so even the issue of authorship is a very, very, very big issue. Okay, and it has many dimensions: inclusion, exclusion, order of authorship. Okay, so now what should be the criteria for authorship? Okay, an author is an individual who fulfills enlisted criteria collectively. So what are those criteria? He or she must have done substantial contributions to conception and design. Okay, so we make a concept and then we design. Okay, so either, so a author should have done contribution to conception and design. An author must have done acquisition of data, analysis or interpretation of the data. So if you are involved in that, then you become an author. Or you, if you are drafting the article, revising it, or you putting your intellectual property, then they also, you also deserve for the authorship. Okay, and once you make everything final, this final approval of the published and the manuscript should be with the consent of all the authors whosoever has been listed. Okay, so these are the important criteria when you become an author of any publication. Okay, now the individuals, second point, individuals who have provided technical services, translating text, sometimes we translate, okay, identifying patients for study, supplying material, providing funds, supplied statistics, or medical writers they are not eligible for authorship. Okay, so see, these people should not be included as the author. Okay, and in a multi-authored paper, authorship should accurately reflect the contribution of each author, and these be pointed out in the acknowledgement section of the manuscript. So nowadays, if you submit the paper in a good journal, and if it is a multi-authored paper, you have to write that which author has done what. Okay, so contribution made by each author has to be indicated either separately or maybe in the acknowledgement. Okay, in many journals, this is now a common practice. They ask for contribution of individual authors and they write it. Okay, so that take care of many of the disputes. Okay, then so this is also important that you must take the consent of each author. Okay, now this we call a variety of authors. Okay, like ghost author, guest author, or gift author. All are unethical. Okay, who is a ghost author? A ghost author is a person who has made a substantial contribution to the research or writing of manuscript, but he or she is not listed as an author. So that author who has done the work is excluded from the authorship, and that author we call as the ghost author. Okay, this is not a good practice. Okay, this is a misconduct. Okay, then who is a guest author or a honorary author? Guest or maybe gift author is someone who is named as an author but who did not contribute in a meaningful way to the design, research, analysis, or writing. Means he or she has not done even any work in pertaining to that paper. So that is unethical. That is a kind of misconduct. Okay, and we call them as a guest, gift, or honorary author. This is not a good practice. Okay. So this is unacceptable practice in publication. Okay. With sometimes we have a dispute for the first authorship. Who should be the first author? Okay. So though there is no fixed rule for that, but in general, uh, the junior most and the person who has done the work at bench in the laboratory. You see, when I'm talking of these publication misconduct, I have a bias for scientists, scientific misconduct, okay, because I belong to science discipline, okay, so there will be a bias for that. And but as I have shown you in the beginning, that majority of the publications are coming from science area, and that too from the medical science area. Okay, so that kind of bias is normal thing. Okay, the person who has done the bench work, that is in the laboratory, who has done the experiments, he or she should be made first author. Okay, and generally, if you are a PhD student, the supervisor name comes at the last. Okay, and the person whose name comes at the last in the paper, he or she is considered as a corresponding author. So whosoever is the corresponding author, all responsibility lies with that person. So once you become a corresponding author, the whole responsibility lies with the corresponding author. Okay, so this is a normal scenario where the senior most person, like if it is a PhD case, PhD work, then supervisor name comes last and the student work comes, the name comes first. Okay, but you will find violation of this. Okay, many supervisors, they put their name first. Okay, why people put their name first? Because when you cite that paper, that name comes. Okay, so suppose Dwivedi. So if I am writing a paper, if I put my name first, then if it is cited, then my name as a Dwivedi will come first. Okay, so that is the reason why people fight for first authorship. But from I have never put my name as a first. Okay, I always give the student's name first, but you will find violation of that. Okay, so this is also not a good practice. Okay, and as I already mentioned, there is no general consensus on order of the authorship. and there are different schools of thoughts. Okay. So this is a cartoon just to show that he is the senior professor on the right hand. This one is the senior professor. He is telling his junior that I am not interested in what the paper is about. Dr. Jones is his name. I just want you to put me on the authors list. So this is also very common. Many senior people, they put their name without knowing what kind of work it is this, okay, without contributing anything towards the that work, okay. Okay, but this is not fair, okay. Now, second category of publication misconduct is your duplicate publication. What is a duplicate publication? A duplicate publication, or this is also known as redundant publication, is a publication of a paper that substantially overlaps with one which is already published without clear visible reference to the previous publication. So many times people do this kind of misconduct, that once they publish a paper and again just by minor changing something here and there, they publish again the same data. This is known as duplicate publication. It is not fair. If it is essential to mention that previous work, you must cite the reference. That is important. If you put the reference that this work has already been published, then that is not a misconduct. Okay. So, and second thing, as per copyright law and publication ethics, whatever is available in the journal for reading would be original, unless there is a clear statement that the author and the editor are intentionally republishing an article. Okay. So this is copyright infringement also. Okay. So duplication of publication is the breach of the copyright law and against the ethical conduct. Okay. In addition, duplication of publication causes waste of limited resources and also leads to inappropriate weighting of the result of the single study. So it should be discouraged. Okay. Then there is the Committee of Publication of Ethics. This is known as COPE. I will explain in subsequent slides. So Committee on Publication Ethics classifies duplicate publication into major and minor offenses. What is a major offense? Major offense is the one where duplicate publication is based on the same set of data and findings which are already published. It is also considered if there is evidence that the author tried to hide duplication by changing the title or order of authorship or by not referring previous publication. So if someone is doing this, this comes under the major offense under the category of duplicate publication. However, there is a minor, or we call salami slicing, is considered segmental publication or part publication of results or reanalysis derived from a single study. Authors do it to increase the number of publications. But this is also not a good practice, and this comes under the category of misconduct. Okay. So it is considered unethical and is taken in a bad sense because of a reader. It may cause distortion of the conclusion drawn. Okay. Then duplicate publication does not prevent the author. Okay, in some time, in some situation, even the duplicate publication it is not considered as unethical. What are those conditions? So duplicate publication does not prevent the author to disseminate important public health information in case of public health emergency. Okay. In fact, International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, they encourage editors to give priority to authors who have made crucial data publicly available without delay. Okay. Duplicate publications are justified if it is about combined editorials, clinical guidelines, and translation of archives. Okay. So under some conditions, we accept the duplicate publication. Okay. But otherwise, it is a kind of misconduct. Then next category of your publication misconduct is considered as embezzlement of ideas. So claiming an idea to be one's own while it was obtained from privileged access while reviewing manuscript. So if a reviewer is reviewing some manuscript, if the idea is taken from that, that comes under the embezzlement Then, so reviewing the manuscript, or sometimes we receive grant proposals to review. So if you take some idea from grant proposals, or you take some idea through participation in lectures or personal discussions and earlier publication, but not citing them. Okay. So all this comes under the embezzlement of ideas. Okay. Then non-compliance of regulatory guidelines, that also comes under the publication misconduct. Okay. So deliberate violation of ethical guidelines accepted for human and animal research, non-adherence to biosafety regulations, or inappropriate use of research funds, all these comes under the category of non-compliance of regulatory guidelines. Then withholding data from validation. So not providing data or research material to the institute journal for verification or validation, that also comes under the category of misconduct, that is withholding the data from validation. Okay. Then wrong versus fraudulent. Okay. So there is a difference between the wrong and the fraudulent. Fraudulent is something which we do deliberately. Okay. But wrong is something which occurs by chance. Okay. So if you are, something becomes unintentionally wrong, sometimes we publish some data because the error of the equipment, or maybe some theoretical concept clear, it is not very clear, or ambiguity, you may get some things published which is wrong, which later on you correct it. So that comes under the category of error or wrong. Okay. So which is unintentional. Okay. I will explain this thing later on also. So it occasionally happens that a conclusion drawn in an earlier publication is neglected, modified, or shown where it went wrong either by the same author or others. This is therefore not fraudulent. And this is how science progresses. So if I am able to detect some technical errors, which I improve later on, that is not considered as a misconduct. In fact, that is important for the development of the science or the subject. Okay. Then redundant and salami publications I have mentioned. Okay. Then now major next issue is your conflict of interest. Okay, what is conflict of interest? The conflict of interest describes the situation where the impartiality of the research may be compromised. Okay, if you are not able to give the correct judgment, impartial way, if your judgment is biased, then that is known as conflict of interest. So in simple words, if some 4 or 5 persons are working together, okay, and then if you are publishing, you have to give a statement that there's no conflict of interest. Otherwise, later on, you can say that this was my work and he has published. Okay. Or he has published with his name or his first author name or so and so. So those things come under the category of conflict of interest. And when we write a paper, we give a statement that there is no conflict of interest among the authors. Okay. Similarly, when we review a paper, then also we give that. Suppose I am reviewing a paper which pertains to one of my friends' group. Okay. So I may be biased while making a decision because this comes from my friend. Okay. Or a known person. Okay. So those things. So at that time we just write that we are, because there is a conflict of interest, therefore I am not going to review this. Okay. So those things we do under the category of this conflict of interest. Okay. So here examples may include research grants from funding agencies, financial support for educational program, employment, career advancement, advocacy for strongly held positions, and support for friends and colleagues for biases in the research. So these are the various factors which may lead to conflict of interest. Okay. So disclosure of conflict of interest is basic requirement. So you have to declare there is no conflict of interest. Okay. And if there, you should write that there is a conflict of interest and therefore I will not be a party to this. Okay. Then predatory publishing. Now, at the beginning, I was mentioning some journals, they charge a lot. Nowadays, this is very common. Okay. So I will come to that later on. So what is a predatory publishing? Predatory publishing is the publication of an article in the journal that lacks the usual feature of editorial oversight, transparent policies, and operating procedures of legitimate peer review journals. Okay. Predatory journals, they exploit the authors by charging the publication fee and deceiving them by providing the false claim about the journal's impact factor, indexing, and peer review. They say that is a peer-reviewed journal, but they don't go for peer review. Okay, this is not. They say it is an index journal, but they don't. It doesn't come under the category of index journal. They claim very high impact factor, but that is not the correct impact factor, which is accepted. Okay, so all these things, if a journal is doing, that comes under the category of predatory journal or predatory publishing. Okay, and then predatory publishing is harmful for both author and the scientific community or community, you can say. It can misinform the readers and propagate wrong science because of poor quality control. There is no quality control. Okay, you see, when our papers are reviewed by good reviewers, those who are really expert in that area, the quality of paper improves. They suggest very, very good things by which our paper quality improves. Okay, so peer review process is very, very important. In that way, your paper quality improves. Okay, but here in predatory publisher journals, the journals which are predatory, they don't do. They claim that yes, there is a peer review, but they don't do that. Okay, so that is how the quality is compromised. Okay, that's why it should not be encouraged. Publishing in a predatory journal is not should not be encouraged. Okay. At the same time, when you publish in some predatory journal, then genuine information also gets lost or missed at least, because most of the predatory journals are not indexed in the database. That information is of no use. They are not in the database, and that cannot be noticed. Okay, so now this is a listing of predatory journals published by different countries. Okay, so you can see India. Sorry, India is the highest. You can see there are a large number of publications are coming in the predatory journals. Okay, but US is also involved, but less number. Okay, so a number of countries are involved. So just to give an idea that predatory journals, they are very common nowadays, and their number is increasing, which I have shown in the next slide. Okay, so here you can see this is a cartoon. You can see in 2014 this slide, this one. Okay, then red one is the predatory publishers, and yellow one is your here, this one, middle one, this one. So yellow one is your predatory journals. So you can see 2014 and 2016 data, it has increased tremendously. Okay. Similarly, if you look to the income in 2014, the predatory publishers, they earned about 74 million US dollars. Okay, and they published 0.5. They published 0.5 million articles. Okay, and the bottom one, that is 2017. This one, 2017. Then this is the hijack journals, means they do something which looks like the journals which have a great reputation. Okay, some name mimickings. For example, there is a journal we call Journal of Science and Nature, something like that. I forgot. At one place I was taking interview, the candidate came and he told that I have published a number of papers in Journal of Science, Journals Science and Nature and Science, something like that. That was the name of the journal. So we were shocked because the performance was not good. Then we came to know that the journal name is like Journal of Nature and Science. Okay, so this is kind of hijacked journals. Then put a name like that, and you can see their number is increasing in an exponential way. 2015 to 2017, 283% increase in those kinds of journals. Okay, then if you look to the left panel, this one, left upside up here, authors from Asia and Africa make up to 75% of the authors who published in predatory journals. So our name also comes in that we almost 75% authors belong to Asia and Africa who contribute to these predatory journals. Okay, and if you this bottom one, if you look left panel, this one, the global distribution of predatory publishers. Okay, then the you see India. Uh, India contributes 27.1%. Okay, then Asia is 11.6, and this is excluding India. So if you take it, then it goes to 38, 39 so percent. Okay, so Asia, including India, is the major contributor for global distribution of predatory publishers. Okay, but Europe and North America is also partner in that. Okay, so just to give an idea that the scenario of predatory journals is also very big. Okay, they are earning a lot of money, lot number of people are publishing paper, and a lot number of articles are also being published. Okay, so but this is also unethical. This is not a ethical way of publishing. Okay, so this is just to show you that it is just like what kind of predatory publishing is like. We just xeroxing. If you put money into the xerox in the printing machine, this person is this left panel. You put money, okay, publications are coming out. Okay, so just by putting money, you will get publication, and very quick process. You submit the manuscript today, tomorrow you will get the published paper. Okay, so this is not ethical. It is unethical. Okay, so how to avoid predatory publishing? Okay, so authors should know how to identify trustworthy journals. If the journal website mentions of indexing, then it is important to cross-check the inclusion of the journals in the mentioned databases. For an open access journal, the inclusion of directory of open access journals can be checked at the DOAJ website, and the journal's claim of the journal citation report impact factor can be verified by its international standard serial number in the JCR master list. Okay, and another approach to check trustworthy journals is to self-assess the journal through website link, which is given here. Okay, so there are ways to find out whether it is a predatory journal or not, and if you come to know that it is a predatory journal, you try to avoid publishing in predatory journals. Okay, so this is just a slide for cartoon I have shown that these predatory journals do not have a web of science impact factor or science citation index journal ranking. Okay, do not employ, do not or improperly use permanent identification such as ISSN or even DOI. Okay, then charge unusually high. So their charges may be unusually high. At the same time, their charges may be low also. Okay, that is low article processing charges. Okay, so both higher side as well as lower side. And if you negotiate, they can bring down their price. Okay, so all sorts of things are going on. Okay, they do not have clear policy on copyright licensing, open access or retraction. Then use generic email accounts like Gmail or Yahoo, or for correspondence, no accurate headquarter location, have unprofessional website with dead links and grammatical errors. Okay, so these predatory journals you can identify by these marks also. Okay, now I am coming to a different topic. Okay, the same thing but in a different way. You see, this is the data where 331 papers were retracted. Retracted means once published, but because of some problem, people withdraw it. They claim we don't claim it as a published, so withdraw. They withdraw their paper. So that is retraction of the paper. Now it has been analyzed that out of these 331 retracted papers, what were the regions? Okay, so you can see the regions are shown here behind the retraction of these 331 papers. Okay, so major one you can see out of 331, 139 papers were retracted because of the plagiarism. Okay, so now you can say there is the data to indicate that plagiarism is a major type of misconduct. Okay, publication misconduct. Okay, now this plagiarism may be of different types. For example, it may be self-plagiarism. It may be even the duplicate publication came under the same category. It may be plagiarism for others. So even the self-plagiarism is included, as well as the plagiarism from others' work is also included. Okay. Then the second major uh, reason was the data issues. Their data were either falsified or problematic data, or data ownership or disclosure was not. Okay, they didn't accept the data. Okay, so the data issues became the second one. That is data publication and falsification, everything will come under that. Okay, then the third was your this authorship issue. As I was mentioning, authorship issue is also a big issue. You can see how many papers were retracted because of the authorship issue. So lack of authorization, then missing author, affiliation error, unclear authorship. Okay, maybe ghost, maybe honorary, maybe not ghost, but honorary gift. Okay, so those kinds of issues. So authorship issue is also a big issue. And then what I was telling, the errors, what we call as the honest error. Okay, so that belong to 54 out of 331. 54 were due to the errors in their publication, which may be due to experimental error, maybe theoretical error, or maybe data not reproducible. Okay, so this sometimes we consider that yes, this might have happened due to means if it is unintentional, that may be a kind of honest error. Okay, but if it is intentional, then this is a certainly grave misconduct. Okay, so just to show that the plagiarism is the major one, followed by data issues, and then authorship issues, and that errors in the data. Now, this is just to show I have few more slides also to show the country-wise scenario of this error or misconduct or suspected misconduct. Okay, you see USA has a high figure, close to 50% or so for both category, maybe error or maybe misconduct or suspected misconduct. Okay, now in India, we have more for the misconduct, higher data. Though as compared to US, we are very less in number, but the reason is that US publications are very high as compared to total Indian publications. That's why their figure is more. Okay, but in India, major misconduct belongs to the category of suspected misconduct, or it is not error. Error is very small. Okay, major is the misconduct or suspected misconduct. Okay. Now this slide I have deliberately put just to show that at the beginning, this color is for plagiarism and the light color is for fabrication or falsification. This is for fabrication or falsification, but this is for your plagiarism. Okay. Now initially from 2005, you see this is increasing. Okay. So in 2002, plagiarism was at the peak, you can say. Okay, again up to 2014, plagiarism was very high, but later on it is showing a downward trend. Okay, the reason is that since then the softwares which people started using became very common. Okay, so nowadays the plagiarism one data is going down because of the use of plagiarism software by authors also, and if not by authors, many of the good journals, they have those plagiarism software and they screen it, and if it is beyond the permissible level, they don't accept it. Okay, now it is again country-wise scenario of fraud or suspected fraud. You see the A is for fraud or suspected fraud, B is for plagiarism, C is for duplicate publication. And you see different countries, all major countries are involved in that. USA, Germany, Japan, China, UK, India, Korea. Okay, all big countries, they are involved, including our India. Okay, so just to give an idea about all kinds of misconduct is very common in almost all countries. Okay. Now this is the data of last year, 2019 June. Okay, when the one of the CSI, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR, which has a large number of laboratories distributed throughout the India. There also this pub peer commenters, they have flagged more than 100 papers from the branches of the CSIR for apparent image duplication and other issues. Okay, this was a big issue about a year and a half back. Okay, so many of the images were duplicated. Okay, so they are big reputed labs. Okay, now this is very important. You see, many research misconduct incidents in the United States go unreported. So this is one study, but this is common to other countries also. Many research misconducts are unnoticed. Okay, so whatever we analyzed so far, which have come into the picture. Okay, but we have many which have not yet been noticed. Okay, so all sorts of misconduct is taking place in the publication process. Okay, now I have summarized some of the reasons for unethical practices. Okay, so the first one is, what do you mean by misconduct, publication misconduct? Okay, so any publication that reports the results and draws, I have already given you conclusion from the data which have been manipulated or uses any unethical practices comes under the category of publication misconduct. Okay, now authors are the originator of publication process. This is very important. Their responsibilities are the most. They are at the center of the ethics. Okay, for national and international recognition to an author. Okay, so why people do unethical practices? The reason is the researcher or the author, for national or international recognition, or maybe international or national recognition of the department, maybe of your university, maybe of your institution. So one of the important reasons for using these unethical practices is for getting recognition by the author, by the institution, by the department, by the university, and so on. Second reason for unethical practices is to fulfill the specific job requirements for that researcher. Okay, maybe his or her promotion, or maybe some grant application. If they are able to publish, they can get a grant, research, so they can get some funding for that. Okay, so that is another reason why many times people just they want publication and they go for these unethical practices. Okay, so maybe for promotion, maybe for getting some grants from funding agencies, or sometimes they have attitude what you call publish or perish. If you are not able to publish, you may be made out of job. Okay, that may be reason to publish in publication, to practice unethical practices in publication. Okay, then one important reason is also, especially for the younger ones, is the lack of awareness. Many of them are not aware also. Okay, so that awareness is also important. Okay? So one reason for unethical publication practicing is lack of awareness. And lastly, this is very complicated. Many people, they have a tendency to do unethical practices, and you cannot. This is a very complex situation. They have a tendency. They will do it. They know it, but even then they do it. Okay, so maybe kind of habit they have developed. Okay, which is a very serious matter. Okay, other things can be improved, but if a person has made a habit like that, it is very difficult to break that habit. Okay, so that is also one of the reason for unethical practices. Okay, no, okay, so Up till now, we have dealt with the misconduct. Okay. Now, what we should avoid it, and that misconduct you can avoid it through following good publication practices and initial so initial few slides are for those who are conducting the study, those who are authors or those who are researchers. Okay, so for researcher, what kind of good laboratory practices or good publication practices he or she should follow? That is, so first thing, that good publication practice do not develop by chance and will become established only if they are actively promoted. An author must be aware of good publication practice and should adhere to good publication practices. Good academics can blossom only when research is conducted and documented with complete honesty and ethics. Okay? There is no need to identify, acknowledge, and generate. There is need to identify, acknowledge, and generate awareness among junior researchers or postgraduate students to curb publication misconduct and adopt good publication practices. Okay, so the younger ones, they need a kind of awareness, a kind of training, especially our students also, so that they can inculcate in them the good publication practices, good laboratory practices. Okay, all those things must be inculcated in the younger ones also, especially the students one. So when we conduct the study, so first thing is the laboratory records. Okay, so the researcher must keep proper records of each experiment, details of materials obtained from varied sources, and how they were used, procedures, analysis, and other related material. Then graphs and printouts from instruments should be numbered and filed appropriately. So whatever graph you are taking printout or any data, you must file it. Okay. If any software is used for handling and analyzing the data, its name, version, and other details should be recorded. The laboratory record of experiments carried out using a publicly funded institution should carry every single detail of the experiment. Such records are the property of the laboratory and are to be kept for archival and later retrieval purpose. A copy will, of course, be that of the researcher and can be used by anyone till after a defined moratorium period of 18 months. Moratorium period of 18 months. Yeah. So you should maintain a proper record of everything, whatever you are doing. Okay, that is a good laboratory practice and good publication practice also. Okay, and if you are collaborating, you are undergoing some collaborative study, the role played by each collaborator and the benefit, both material and intellectual, which accrues to each collaborator should be decided ahead of the time. At the beginning, you should decide and should be accepted by each participant and formally recorded. Okay, you make a record of that, and you must reach to a mutual agreement for everything. And it is better to do those kinds of agreement before the start of the project. Okay, the benefit that accrues to each of the researchers' institutions, if any, should also be agreed upon ahead of time. Patent rights of each collaborator and or of his institution, if any, should be decided and be recorded ahead of time. Then institutions need to agree upon the operating procedures for such memorandum of understanding, what you call MOUs, and for the exchange of materials and samples. Then if you are doing some consultancy work, then external consultation should be done with the explicit permission from the institutional head where the scientist, technologist work. Okay, so you must take the permission from the head of the institution for undertaking any consultancy work. Okay, at the same time, permission, if denied, should be justified and the reasons thereof be formally recorded. If you are using the facilities of the institutions, then the details should be declared and recorded with the due confidentiality in terms of interest of the client. Okay, a clear statement of the resources to be used and finances that would cure to the consultant and the institution should be recorded from the beginning. Okay, and The plagiarism and internal check by the authors using softwares must be done before a paper or a report is submitted for publication or distribution. So plagiarism must be checked. Okay, authors should provide a statement to this effect in the acknowledgement section. Okay, then Sulani publication, it should be stopped. Okay, and then safe laboratory practices. You should follow safe laboratory practices in the sense it is obligatory that institutions train their staff for safe laboratory practices, proper attire, use of gloves, proper ventilation, proper shoes, proper instructions, and training in handling hazardous chemicals, glasswares, gases, then radioactivity and safety sheets for proper fire, electrical, and other facilities must be in place in all places of work. Okay, so safe laboratory practices must be followed and implemented. Then if you are doing research on human and biological materials, then stringent guidelines on the use of humans as experimental participants in the clinical trial and the use of human biological materials in research, it should exist. Okay, these guidelines exist. Okay, you and the Union Health Ministry has provided guidelines on these as well as on the exchange of human biological material, and these should be adhered to. On the use of human biological materials for experimental research, even in the laboratory and the clinic, one needs first informed consent. So you should take consent from the individuals from whom the material is obtained, and based on this, approval from the Human Ethics Committee of the institution. So there must be a ethics committee of the institute itself, and details of these are found in the guidelines published by, if you are interested, you can find the details of these guidelines in this ICMR. Okay, so ICMR has given a detailed guideline for this. Okay, then if you are using animals in research, then Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, India has provided guidelines on the rules and regulations of the use of animals in research. Due and human care should be taken of animals before and during and after the experiment. The animal houses should comply with the best possible standards of hygiene and upkeep. Regular training programs should be conducted, and regular interaction with animal welfare groups and scientists is recommended in order to ensure minimal distress. Okay, so these are the various good practices which you should follow when you are involved in such kind of work. Okay, then at the publisher level, what do you mean by good publication practices? Because at the researcher level there is also guidelines, and for the publisher level also there is a good publication practice guidelines are there. So good practice guidelines in publication ethics have been written to offer journal editors a framework for developing and implementing their own publication ethics policies and systems. Okay, there are organizations which give recommendations and develop guidelines to assist authors, editors, and reviewers. So these guidelines are for all, for authors, for editors, and reviewers. And the purpose is to publish accurate, clear, reproducible, unbiased research papers. In medicine sectors, the publication ethics is more important and it may have direct effect on the human health. And therefore, the organizations involved in publication of ethics, these are the three major organizations which are involved in publication of these guidelines pertaining to ethics. One is International Committee of Medical Journals Editor, which we abbreviated ICMJE. Then World Association of Medical Editors, we call WAME. And then Committee on Publication Ethics, we call COPE. Okay. So this is very briefly, I've given what is this ICMJE. This was established in 1978 in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, by a group of medical journal editors. Then this developed recommendations which are primarily for authors who want to submit their work in this ICMJE member journals. So a number of journals are member. These recommendations discuss the role and responsibilities of the author, contributors, reviewers, and editors. Steps of manuscript preparation, submission, and editorial issues related to publication in medical journals are also discussed and drafted. Then WAME is a non-profit voluntary association which was established in 1995 by a group of members of the ICMJE, and the goal was to improve editorial standard. So this is basically for editors to improve their standard, promote professionalism in medical editing, and encourage research on the principles and practice of medical editing. This is a mistake, a spelling mistake. This should be principles and practice of medical editing. Okay. The role of WAME is to facilitate worldwide cooperation and communication among editors of peer-reviewed medical journals, and membership in WAME is free, and all decision-making editors of the peer-reviewed journals are eligible to join. And WAME has more than 1,830 members, representing more than 1,000 journals from 92 countries. Then you have third one, that is Committee on Publication Ethics, what we call COPE. This helps in ethical publication. COPE was founded in 1997 by a small number of UK medical editors as a self-help group to discuss troubling ethical cases in the publication process. It provides paid membership and currently has more than 7,000 members in various disciplines from all parts of the world. The purpose of COPE is to find the practical ways to deal with the misconduct cases and to develop codes of conduct for good publication practice. It also generates funding for the research based on issues related to publication misconduct. Okay. So in summary, if you see, the greatest responsibilities lies with the author, because he or she is the initiator of the whole process. Okay, they are at the center. Okay, so author must take greatest precaution to adhere to the ethics. Okay, and he or she is the maximally responsible for any misconduct if it happens. Okay, so to maintain the integrity and credibility of research and to nourish the trust of public, all authors must follow the rules of good publication practice. Following responsibilities lies with the author. First, though I have covered, but just to just summarize it, no fabrication or manipulation of the data. Order of authorship be in a judicious way to avoid future conflicts. Conflict of interest be declared. No ghost gift guest authorship. No plagiarism. Acknowledge others' work. Declaration declare whether research work has been published or presented before. Do not submit the manuscript to more than one journal for simultaneous consideration. Take approval from the Institutional Ethics Committee before conducting research if it involves animal or human subjects. Last but not the least, take direct responsibility for appropriate portions of the content. As an author, you have to take the responsibility. You cannot go away from that. Okay. So the role of author is the most important. Okay. So now this is just to summarize what kind of misconduct and the category of misconduct and the responsibility of the author. For example, first, the unethical practice, for example, here is the authorship. So the misconduct may be, that is the order of authorship, or maybe ghost, guest, gift authors. Okay. Now the role of and responsibility of the author is decide in advance. All authors must fulfill the criteria of authorship. The second is plagiarism. Okay. So the misconduct is major, clear plagiarism, word-to-word copy of a large part of the previous manuscript, including data. Or second, it may be minor plagiarism, copying of short pages only without any manipulation of the data. Okay. So in the first one, cite the original source. How you can take care of that as an author? Cite the original source properly and include the copy of phrase within the quotation mark. Okay. This is how you can get rid of this major plagiarism, misconduct. Okay, so if you are quoting this, then that is not a misconduct. Okay, then for the also you obtain permission for use of published illustrations. If you are using a figure, you take the permission from the publisher for its use. Okay, then duplicate publication, redundant publication. Okay, so major duplicate publication is based on the same data set and finding which are already published, and author attempts to hide uh, redundancy. Okay, second is minor or salami slicing, duplicate publication with some element of redundancy or legitimate repetition. So the author responsibility is mentioned in the letter of submission that the work has been already published and provide copies of related work to editors. Second, avoid publication of fragmentary results or finding, that is, avoid the salami slicing publications. Okay. Then conflict of interest, that is the, if there is a issue of conflict of interest, then the misconduct is undisclosed relationship or funding source that may pose a competing interest. Then as an author, your responsibility is to disclose any type of conflicts of interest at the time of submission. Authors are supposed to declare conflict of interest in manuscript text 2, which is meant for readers. Okay. Then drafting of manuscript, then the misconduct is not uniform, non-uniformity in reporting randomized clinical trials, or maybe non-standard way of reporting annual research studies. Then all manuscripts, so as a responsibility of the author, you should do all manuscript reporting clinical trials should be drafted as per consort guidelines. Consort is your consolidated standards of reporting trials. Then second point is reporting of all animal research studies should continue to arrive guidelines. Your arrive is animal research reporting in vivo experiments. Okay. Then if the hello, then ethical approval, working on unapproved projects, then taking up research without getting it approved from the institutional ethics committee or institutional animal ethics committee. Then as an author, the protocol should always be approved by the institutional ethical committee or institutional animal ethics committee, along with before initiating the project, the research, and name of IEC and IAEC along with approval number to be provided in the manuscript. Then CTRI registration. CTRI means Clinical Trial Registry of India. You should non-registered clinical trials in CTRI, that is the misconduct. So all clinical trials should be registered with the CTRI, and author should document CTRI registration number in manuscript. So as an author, these are your responsibility. And as I've already mentioned, as an author, he or she has the greatest responsibility of maintaining the publication ethics. Okay. So in conclusion, we can say that authors, especially the new authors, should be made aware of good publication practices so that unethical practices in publication can be prevented. Then authors should be provided appropriate training and guidance. Each institute or department should resort to COPE or ICJME recommendations for publications and draft their own standard operating procedure or protocol for SOP, what we call, for researchers. Okay, so this is the conclusion. And now, so my talk is over. This is, I have just categorized some of the plagiarism detection tools for the students. So you can go to the website, you can find. Okay, so whenever you write any article, you must check it for the plagiarism. Okay, then this is my source from which I have prepared this talk. Okay, so kind of acknowledgement and further reading if you are interested. Okay, so with this, I end my talk, and I hope I am able to convey to you some of the ethics which should be followed in the publication process. Okay.